ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. I ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant us all the sincere intentions for His sake alone. MashaAllah. In our second session now, introducing the book Umdatul Raghib, I will insha'Allah Ta'ala speak about the author of the book. The author of the book is Shaykh Abdullah Al-Harari. In the previous session, I mentioned that his students put together this book from the teachings of Shaykh Abdullah. So let us mention who Shaykh Abdullah Al-Harari rahimahullah was. He was born in Harar, which is in Ethiopia, in some said 1910 and some said 1905. Harar was known as Madinatul Ulama and Madinatul Awliya, and also perhaps Madinatul Qurra. It was known as the city, although it was very small at the time, it was a village. It was known as the village of the scholars, the village of the pious awliya, and perhaps the village of those that recited Al-Quran. It was a very blessed place because of so many pious people within it. Shaykh Abdullah was born in Harar in 1910, approximately. Shaykh Jamil Halim, may Allah protect him, I heard him say, and he is one of the top students of Shaykh Abdullah, who is spreading the creed of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah in the East and in the West. Thabbatahullah wa waffaqahullah. I heard him mention that Shaykh Abdullah died at the age of 105. But because these matters in the past were not recorded as they are now, it is not known with certainty. Just to give you a context so that you can appreciate the roundabout time that Shaykh Abdullah was born. Around this time, let's say in 1909, it was said that it was the first time that Westerners, at least, Americans, poll. This happened on April the 6th, 1909. And on April the 27th, 1909, just to give you perspective, Sultan Abdul Hamid II, rahimahullah, the Ottoman Sultan, was forced to abdicate from the Sultanate. So he was alive at this time. In 1914, World War I broke out. It finished in 1918. There was the arms race. There was the battle of the shipbuilding between the different countries. So this is what was going on at the time. Just to mention about Sultan Abdul Hamid al-Thani II. He was a blessed man. This caliph, this sultan, he was a blessed man. Some of the students of Shaykh Abdullah, they performed al-Hajj on his behalf because he was a pious person. They performed al-Hajj on his behalf. He protected the Muslim nation and served al-Islam. People from the inside of the Ottoman Caliphate and from the outside were scheming and plotting against him. But he was supported by Allah. He protected Jerusalem. He protected the land of the Muslims, that land of the Muslims. And Sheikh Abdullah mentioned As-Sikkatu al-Hijaziyya, which was the that he had built from Damascus to Al-Madinah and was planning to take it from Istanbul all the way to Mecca to make it easier for the people of Ash-Sham and the people of Turkey to perform Al-Hajj, to go and see the blessed lands. MashaAllah. So Shaykh Abdullah said about him, لو لم يكن في صحيفته إلا السكة الحجازية لكفاه ذلك يوم القيامة. Had it been the case that among the only things that a Sultan Abdul Hamid II had as his great deeds, had it been the case that he only had the Hijazi railway, then this would have sufficed him on the day of judgment. But he was someone who opened up thousands of madaris, thousands of Islamic schools teaching the creed of Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, the Ash'aris and the Maturidis. So Sheikh Abdullah was born around this time when all this was happening, when Sultan Abdul Hamid was being betrayed, at a time at which the Western powers, they portray the Ottoman Empire as the sick man of Europe. If you studied your history and you remember, that may ring a bell. The dying man of Europe. And then, subhanallah, whatever happened in the First World War. So Sheikh Abdullah, rahimahullah, was born around this time, which is not long ago. You think about it, about 110 years ago, 115 years ago, 120 years ago. His father, Muhammad, the son of Yusuf al-Harari, he was a pious man who acquired the religious knowledge, the Islamic knowledge, but he was not known for openly teaching. He was among the hidden sheikhs. Sheikh Abdullah learned 2 books, Islamic books, with his father in the Shafi'i school. Both of them being works of the great scholar Abdullah ba Fadl al-Hadrami. One of these books was Al-Muqaddimah al-Hadramiyyah fi Fiqh al-Sadat al-Shafi'iyya. This is a huge book. Not in size, but if you consider the content of the book, Sheikh Abdullah studied that with his father. And the second book, Al-Mukhtasar al-Saghir فيما لا بد لكل مسلم من معرفته, which means the small summary that every Muslim must know. And it is from his father, rahimahullah, that Sheikh Abdullah took the habit of saying the name of Allah when he was not talking. And this is the habit of the pious people, that they would say, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, when they are not speaking. Sheikh Abdullah, even when he was teaching, he would say in between his sentences, he would say, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. Somebody who had the nur of Iman emanating from his heart. MashaAllah. He understood this life. So again, think about it. This is an example of a scholar who lived in our times, who saw people in our times, but he stuck out from them. He was not like them. He battled when he was young with his self and overcame it, and did not look to the luxuries of this world. Instead, he chose the luxuries of the hereafter. Rahimahullah. So when you see Sheikh Abdullah, when you see an image of him, he looks like a normal person, just like one of us. But mashallah, there is a difference in terms of the effort put in. Some of our teachers mentioned that Sheikh Abdullah, his father passed away when he was around 13 years of age. And some of our teachers said rather it was when he was 8 years of age. Sheikh Abdullah said about himself that he is Abdullah, the son of Muhammad, the son of Yusuf, the son of Abdullah, the son of Jami'. Jami' is the name of the third grandfather of Sheikh Abdullah. He said, جامع هو جدي الثالث في هرر. He said, شجرة النسب ضاعت وأنا في عمر 8 سنوات. That the lineage that we had, it was lost when I was 8 years of age. But he said, النسب ينتهي إلى بني شيبة من جهة الأب. From my father's side, my lineage goes back to Bani Shayba, those that were given the keys to the Kaaba. They were given this responsibility of holding the keys to the Kaaba. Bani Shayba, they are the ones to whom Sheikh Abdullah's lineage returns back to. Meaning what? Meaning he originally is from the people of Mecca. Originally from the people of Mecca. From Bani Abdiddar. These were people in Mecca. This was a clan in Mecca. So Sheikh Abdullah was a Abdari min Bani Abdiddar, from this clan in Mecca. He said about himself, أما من جهة الأم فبكري. He said, I am attributed from my mother's side to Sayyiduna Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. As for his mother, her name was Fatima Abdullah al-Bakriyah. Fatima al-Bakriyah. Al-Bakriyah meaning that her lineage returned back to Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. And she was a pious lady. She would also say La ilaha illallah a lot. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam. One of my friends from Ethiopia, he told me that his mother was the granddaughter of the mother of Sheikh Abdullah. So his mother spent time with the mother of Sheikh Abdullah. So his mother would tell him that whenever she used to lay down next to me to sleep, she would lay me down when I was a child. And as she was laying down, she would say, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. Likewise, whenever the adhan would happen, if she was out in the market, then she would stand still. She would freeze out of respect for the adhan. This was the mother of Sheikh Abdullah. So these two pious parents raised Sheikh Abdullah rahimahullah. Then you have some of the teachers of Sheikh Abdullah when he was young. He said that he has two sheikhs that he loved very, very much. One of them was a Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abd salam ibn Khalil. So Sheikh Muhammad, the son of Abd salam, the son of Khalil al-Husayni. His lineage went back to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, al-Shafi'i. He was a Shafi'i scholar. His grandfather, so we said, Sheikh Muhammad was the son of Abdus Salam, and Abdus Salam was the son of Khalil. This Khalil was known as Khalil Zaidi or Kabir Khalil. The people of Ethiopia, when they want to mention a person among the awliya, they may add the word Kabir before his name. So Kabir Khalil was among the awliya and he was a scholar. Sheikh Abdullah was among the awliya. Likewise, his teacher, Muhammad ibn Abd salam or Muhammad Abdus Salam was a wali, and likewise Khalil Zaidi. And his karamat, Khalil Zaidi, they were known. One of his most apparent karamat, extraordinary matters that occur at the hands of a pious slave of Allah, to honor that slave of Allah, was that once he was leading the Jumu'ah prayer in an area in Ethiopia. He was the Imam. After he finished the prayer and people started to leave the masjid, at that same time, people started to leave the other masajid, the other mosques, because the Jumu'ah prayer had finished. When people met people from other masjids that had just prayed al-Jumu'ah, people from about 40 masjids all said that they prayed al-Jumu'ah at the same time, all of them behind Kabir Khalil. Kabir Khalil, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala granted him this extraordinary karama that he would lead the prayer in so many different places at once. He is buried in Harar. One day, Kabir Khalil radiyallahu anhu was asked, who will carry on your secret? Who will it be passed on to? So he said, the son of my son. So remember, it's Muhammad, the son of Abdus Salam, the son of Khalil Zaidi, Kabir Khalil. He said, the son of my son. And his grandson hadn't even been born yet. He said, the son of my son. And his sign will be the indicating matter that he is the one that I intend. His sign will be that his ears will be big. His ears will be big. Some of our teachers narrated it and said that he said that one of his ears will be larger than the other. After Kabir Khalil, rahimahullah, passed away, his son, Abdus Salam, had a son. And he named him Muhammad. Muhammad, the son of Abdus Salam. And this sign of one ear being larger than the other, or both ears being large, they were found in his son, Muhammad. I'd like to make the point here that the awliya, they do not know the ghaib, they do not know the unseen matters. Rather, Allah creates a feeling within them, or information within them, something within them that they might say, they might utter a statement. Sometimes this statement, it can be something that is true. They would say something from what is known as their kashf, something that Allah creates within their hearts. And Allah has eternally willed that sometimes what is created in their hearts, this will actually meet reality. It will be what will happen in the future, or it will be the way that things actually are, as Allah has eternally willed them. And on some occasions, it'll be the case that Allah has eternally willed to create something, a feeling within the heart of this wali. He expresses it, but it's not, but لا يوافق الواقع. It doesn't correspond to reality. Barakallahu feek. Sheikh Muhammad, so Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abd salam, and sometimes they say Sheikh Muhammad Abd salam. He himself was someone who was quite tall, and he was a tailor when he was young. But he acquired the Islamic knowledge and implemented what he learned and worked hard to reach al-wilaya. And he did. He was the one who would carry Kabir Khalil's secret, radiyallahu anhuma. He studied now, Muhammad bin Abd salam, this is the Shaykh of our Shaykh. He studied under a Shaykh, a scholar, known as Shaykh Yusuf Abdul Wahhab. Shaykh Yusuf Abdul Wahhab was also among the pious slaves of Allah. And he loved to call the adhan. It was something that he loved to do. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, whoever gives the adhan for 7 years, muhtasiban, for the sake of Allah, not seeking a salary, but because he loves the adhan, he wants to give the adhan for the sake of Allah, and he does that for 7 years. This person would have a high status on the Day of Judgment. This person has a grand status on the Day of Judgment. Encourage your sons to give the adhan. Some of the scholars commented about the rewardability of giving the adhan, and they compared it to the rewardability of the one leading the prayer. Imagine that. Because a person stands and proclaims, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Shaykh Yusuf Abdul Wahhab, the teacher of our Shaykh's teacher, the teacher of Shaykh Muhammad Abdus Salam. He loved to call the adhan in the Jami', in the main masjid of Harar, in its biggest masjid. Once he was traveling and he stopped at a masjid and he asked permission to call the adhan because the prayer had come in. So he called the adhan, and the people who were there, they mentioned that there was a woman who was experiencing delivery pains. She was in labor. And when he called the adhan, because of his blessed voice, Allah creates special blessings within the hands of some people, the pious people, the awliya, the look of some people, like Al Badawi, the speech of some people, the touch of some people, the dua of some people. As soon as he gave the adhan, she gave birth immediately. Immediately. As she was going through the delivery pains and so on, she was in labor. Immediately, as she heard the adhan, she gave birth. And the whole area, the people of that town, of that area, they used to mention this. Some people said that we hear the adhan of a Sheikh Yusuf Abdul Wahhab at a distance of 50 kilometers. 50 kilometers away, we hear the adhan of a Sheikh Yusuf Abdul Wahhab. This is something that is given to the pious people. This is something given to the pious people. Even now, still, a person that is with us, one of our sheikhs told us that this person, one of the students of Sheikh Abdullah, sometimes gives the adhan and it can be heard in different places, in different countries, even in different countries where that prayer time hasn't even entered yet. Allah creates blessings within the ears of some people so that certain matters are uncovered for them through the blessings of the deeds that they do because they learn and implement the Islamic knowledge. And Allah creates blessings within the voices of some people such that they would reach large distances. And this is something that is not new to the Muslims. This is known. Sayyiduna Umar radiyallahu anhu, when he was standing on the pulpit delivering the Friday sermon, khutbat al-Jumu'ah, suddenly, as he was talking about something particular, he changed the topic suddenly. And he said, Ya Sariyatul Jabal al-Jabal, O Sariyah, the mountain, the mountain. And the story is known. Sariya was very, very far, hundreds of miles away. And had he not moved and taken the mountain as a shield and protected himself and his army, the opposing army that was coming around the mountain would have seen them and massacred them. And there would have been many fatalities. When he returned to Al Madinah, he told the story of how they heard the voice of Umar radiyallahu anhu saying, Ya Sariyah, O Sariyah, his name was Sariyah, O Sariyah, the mountain, the mountain. Allah creates what He wills. So Sheikh Yusuf Abdul Wahhab, the Sheikh of the Sheikh of our Sheikh is Sheikh Abdullah. His Sheikh was Muhammad Abdul Salam. One of his Sheikhs, as Sheikh Yusuf Abdul Wahhab, this was his state. He was a pious person. Let me tell you something. Our Sheikh and Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Salam and Sheikh Ahmed Abdul Muttalib, another one of our sheikhs, as Sheikh Yusuf Abdul Wahhab, Kabir Khalil Zaidi, these people, they were all of a dark complexion. Alhamdulillah ala ni'matil Islam. They were of a dark complexion. If one of us saw them, we'd say, this man is black. This man is from Africa. All of these people, they were pious slaves of Allah. Allah accepted these people. Not that being black or of a darker complexion makes a person lesser. That's not what I'm saying, of course. But that, subhanallah, who are very backwards, who would look down upon a person because of something that they perceive to be less, like someone if they were black, or if someone was of a particular nationality that they show disdain towards, or a person was poor, or a person, for example, couldn't read or couldn't write, for example. You know, there are some people that can't read and can't write, but they attend religious lessons every single day and they remember La ilaha illallah. Anyway, so Sheikh Yusuf Abdul Wahhab said to his student, Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Salam, when Sheikh Muhammad reached 25 years of age, he said to him, لَقَدْ جَاءَتْكَ الْقُطْبَانِيَّةِ. You have reached the lofty station of Al-Qutbaniyah. You have become a Qutb at the age of 25. At the age of 25. Sheikh Abdullah said that Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Salam once stood at the door of a massive library in which there were manuscripts, writings of old on parchment, and many printed books. And he said, by the grace of Allah, he said, كُلُّ هَذَا عَلَى طَرَفِ لِسَانِي. By the grace of Allah, all of this is on the tip of my tongue. All of this is on the tip of my tongue. Once Sheikh Abdullah, they brought him a CD. They showed him a CD when CDs were new, perhaps in the 70s or the 80s or the early 90s. They showed him a CD and they said, Maulana, all the books that you have in your library, all of them, they're on this CD. So he said, all of the cases that are mentioned in these books, all of these cases, they were on the tip of the tongue of Muhammad Abdul Salam, rahimahullah, his sheikh. They used to call Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Salam Ruknul Balad, Ruknul Balad, like the pillar of the city in terms of religious knowledge, the one that holds that structure together, the pillar. He holds that structure together. Sheikh Abdullah said, Shaykhuna Muhammadun Abdul Salam kana lahu murid, rakibathu duyun. Sheikh Abdullah said, our Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Salam had a disciple, a student, who was in debt. He was drowning in debt. فنبش الشيخ محمد التراب. So Sheikh Muhammad, he was with him. He asked him, the background of the story was, why don't you attend the lessons? And he said, I've become busy with my debt. So نبش الشيخ محمد التراب في الأرض وأخرج له 40 قطعة ذهبية وأعطاه. Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Salam, when he heard that from his student, that he's being busied away from the religious knowledge because he's in debt, he started to, where he started to remove some of the soil from the ground. And he extracted there and then, by the grace of Allah, he extracted 40 pieces of gold and he handed them to his student and said to him, في دينك. في يعني go and return this money, go and pay off your debt. He said, our Sheikh said, وكان هذا المبلغ بمقدار دينه للمريد. He said that the amount that he gave him, the amount of gold, was the exact amount that he had owed the person that he had owed. Some of our teachers narrated it slightly differently. They said that when the student started to miss lessons, when he was asked about it, he said, my master, I have become shy of the people because I owe them money. and I don't have the money to pay them back. So Sheikh Muhammad Abdus Salam was carrying his staff, as is the practice of the prophets. This pious slave of Allah, this wali, followed, of course, the prophet's practice. So he drew a circle on the soil with his staff. And he said to his student, take from it what you need. Take from it what you need. The awliya, they have a karama, an extraordinary matter that is known as karamatu qalb al-a'yan or karamatu qalb al-ayn, by which they, by the will of Allah, they can transform physical entities into different entities. So in this example, the soil became gold. This is, of course, by the will of Allah, tabaraka wa ta'ala. When this person, this murid, when he put his hand into the soil, it turned into gold in his hand. He took the gold and found that it was the amount that he needed to pay off. Sheikh Muhammad Abdus Salam was buried in Diridawa. Perhaps I didn't say it the best way. Some of the Arab sheikhs, they say Dirdawa, but that's not exactly how it's said. Diridawa is closer. In the بلسان أهل البلد, in the accent or the tongue, if you will, of the people who live there. Sheikh Abdullah said, when I was young, Sheikh Muhammad Abdus Salam would come to me and he would ask about me. He would say, where is Abdosh? Abdosh, referring to Sheikh Abdullah. Where is Abdosh Malaika? So the brother of Sheikh Abdullah, Sheikh Yunus, rahimahullah, said, why do you call it, my brother, Abdosh Malaika? He said, I call him Abdosh Malaika, meaning the angels, because I see the angels around him. Sheikh Muhammad Abdus Salam said, I see the angels around him. Ma sha Allahu kan. Then Sheikh Abdullah said, Sheikh Muhammad Abdus Salam would take me and he would make me carry two big books and I would carry them. And then he would actually study them with a Sheikh Muhammad Abdus Salam. One of the books was Sharh or Mulhatul I'rab, perhaps the explanation of Mulhatul I'rab by Al-Hariri. This book is a book of poetry written in Arabic grammar, in the subject of Arabic grammar. It is known as Bint Layla, which is an expression that means that it was written in one night. And many people don't study this book today. They study Al-Ajurumiyya first. And then later on, they may study this book. Sheikh Abdullah studied it with a Sheikh Muhammad Abdus Salam. And he studied another book in the Shafi'i school, Al-Anwar li'A'mal al-Abrar, a book by Al-Ardabili al-Shafi'i. I've seen this book. I've seen the book. It's and I've held it. It's huge in the Shafi'i school. So Sheikh Abdullah was asked, how old were you at that time? He said, I was 8 years old at that time. I was 8 years old at that time. And there is a lot more to say about Sheikh Muhammad Abdus Salam, radiyallahu anhu. A lot more to say. Sheikh Abdullah loved Sheikh Muhammad Abdus Salam. This was his teacher in creed. and in the Shafi'i fiqh, and in al-Nahu. MashaAllah. Then you have Kabir Ahmed Abdul Rahman Haj Abdul Muttalib. He was the one that was in charge of the Shafi'i teachers in Al Masjid Al Haram in Mecca. He was Ethiopian, but he was in charge of the Shafi'i teachers in Al Masjid Al Haram in Mecca, where the Kaaba is, in the days of As Sultan Abdul Hamid II. This was one of the great sheikhs of Sheikh Abdullah, who Sheikh Abdullah loved very much. The famous story that you might have heard is about Haja Abdul Muttalib, Kabir Ahmed, they call him sometimes, where his mother sent him away to learn religious knowledge. She sent him away from Ethiopia to learn Islamic knowledge. So he went and he spent a considerable amount of time learning Islamic knowledge from trustworthy and reliable people. And he returned and he knocked on the door. He came back to Ethiopia. He knocked on the door and he said, when his mother asked, "Who is it?" He said, "It's me, your son." And she said, "It cannot be. My son went to learn the religious knowledge. He would not come back after spending this little amount of time. I mean, learning the religious knowledge in the past, if somebody spent 8 years learning the Islamic knowledge and then returned home, the people would say about him, he wasn't patient with learning the religious knowledge. He didn't stick it out. He didn't do enough. Such a person would not be qualified to teach religious knowledge because that was the place of the scholars. Instead, this person would get a normal job like a normal person. This person would open up a stand and sell fruit or vegetables, which is fine. But just to show you that he would study for 8 years and he would not be qualified to teach the religious knowledge. So Kabir Ahmed Al-Hajj Ahmed Abdul Muttalib, one of the sheikhs of our sheikh, was an Ethiopian. And he went to learn the religious knowledge. And he came back. He spent a considerable time away from home. But his mother, who had these noble, honorable, lofty habits of the Muslims, and these were the habits of the people of that time in Ethiopia, that scholars study for years and years and years. She said, "No, how can you be my son? My son went to learn the religious knowledge, don't you know? How can you be my son? You've come back so early." I mean, he spent quite some time out there. And he said, "No, it is me. Look, she said, when he insisted, she said, "Okay, what have you memorized? What did you learn?" So he said, I learned this and this. He said, "I want to hear it." She said, "I want to hear it." And she hasn't opened the door yet. And then it started to rain. And she still hasn't opened the door. And he said, "It's starting to rain." She said, "What have you learned? What did you learn out there?" So he started to recite, started to recite verses of poetry, this knowledges that he had learned. And then he recited and recited and recited until she finally let him in. And it was raining. It was raining, it was raining, and he was getting wet. And then she took him in. But he became a grand scholar in the Shafi'i school. In the Shafi'i school, he had poetry that he wrote. Religious knowledge in the form of poetry is what the scholars would do to make it easier for the people to memorize, because then it's rhythmic. He had a poem of 7,000 verses, ya jama'ah. 7,000 verses. You have Alfiya, don't you? And you have, well, which means 1,000 verses. You might hear Alfiyat ibn Malik, Alfiyat al-Iraqi, Alfiyat kaza. But he had Sab'at alaf. I don't know what you'd call that. MashaAllah. And he was very strong in the Arabic language. In the later part of his life, he would lay down on the floor and students of knowledge would come to him and recite from their books. And because he's memorized it, he would correct them if they made a mistake. But that's how you get taqi. That's how you learn religious knowledge. That's how you get your knowledge checked, by going to a teacher, reading it on the teacher, or the teacher speaks and you write it down. That's how you get it from mouth to mouth to mouth to mouth to mouth, all the way back to the honorable mouth of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was taught by Jibreel alayhi salam. This knowledge was revealed by Allah to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Sheikh Abdullah, his Sheikh was a Sheikh Ahmed Abdul Muttalib. And Sheikh Ahmed Abdul Muttalib, he would lay down in the later part of his life because he was very elderly. And the students of knowledge would come and they would recite while he was laying down and he would correct them. But when the young Sheikh Abdullah would come, this young man, Sheikh Abdullah, would come, this pious man would sit up. People would say about Sheikh Ahmed Abdul Muttalib, they'd say that he's like an angel. In what sense? He used to worship Allah so much. Now, you know, the angels, they don't tire. La yafturun, as Allah revealed in the Quran. La yafturun. They don't tire. Allah didn't create that as one of their attributes, as one of their characteristics, for them to become tired. So they said Sheikh Ahmed Abdul Muttalib was like an angel in that he worships Allah so much that it's as though he doesn't get tired. Imagine being raised by such a person, or being raised and mentored by the likes of Muhammad Abdus Salam. And then you had the parents of Sheikh Abdullah. What kind of environment is this, where you're raised by the awliya and the scholars? How does a person think one is going to turn out in the norm? MashaAllah. You learn a lesson from that. Look at the opposite. As-sahib sahib. The companion pulls you towards himself. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, Al-mar'u ala dini khalilih. فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِلْ. A person usually would acquire the mannerisms, the behaviors, the way of talking, if energetic, energy, if laziness, lazy. This is what a person acquires from their khalil, the person they befriend. So the Prophet said, فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِلْ. Look therefore thoroughly into the one that you accompany, for the one you take as a beloved person, for the one that you befriend. Look thoroughly, because they will rub off onto you. Their behavior will rub off onto you. Their habits will rub off onto you. Their energy, if you will rub off onto you. If they're lazy, well, if you're not strong, you're going to become lazy too. So Sheikh Abdullah was raised by these people. Sheikh Ahmed al-Kabir, once said to Sheikh Abdullah, when Sheikh Abdullah was young and he was a grown man, an old man, he said to Sheikh Abdullah, observe me. If you see me doing something that's disliked, not even sinful, but disliked, bring it to my attention. Bring it to my attention. In Rajab, Sha'ban, and Ramadan, every day Allah gave Sheikh Ahmed, or Kabir Ahmed, Abdul Muttalib, He gave him the ability in the months of Rajab, Sha'ban, and Ramadan to finish the whole Quran every day twice. Allah created blessings within this person. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala created blessings within this person. MashaAllah. Just a moment, please. Okay. Insha'Allah Ta'ala, what we'll do is, for those of you that are here, we're going to take about a 20-minute break, insha'Allah, and then we'll continue this session, insha'Allah Ta'ala. Right now it's about 10:10. We'll continue it at 10:30, insha'Allah Ta'ala, speaking about Sheikh Abdullah, because I will, insha'Allah, I want to finish speaking about him today, rahimahullah, so that next week we can start with the book. So let us stop here for now. Walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It will be the same link, insha'Allah ta'ala. See you in about 20 minutes. Allahu yajzikum khayran. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.